Admiral Leahy stays fashionably behind the shadows in the history of World War II. He has largely disappeared from the national mind when considering the generals and admirals who helped shape U.S. grand strategy during the war. Many think of Admiral Nimitz, General Marshall, Admiral Halsey, or General MacArthur, but many do not remember Admiral Leahy. Few know that Leahy was present with Roosevelt during just about every major conference of the war. Few know that Leahy was the most senior officer during the war. Even fewer know that Leahy helped draft Truman's Navy Day address and Churchill's famous Iron Curtain speech, ushering in the era of the Cold War. Historian Phillips O'Brien has termed him the second most powerful man in the world. While Leahy himself would probably not have approved of the title, his life is a testament to the enormous influence that he wielded during a tumultuous period in the history of the United States, the effects of which are still visible today.
William Daniel Leahy was born on May 6, 1875, in Hampton, Iowa. His father, Michael Leahy, was a lawyer and Civil War veteran. Leahy initially wanted to attend West Point, but his congressman could only offer him a spot at the Naval Academy. Although disappointed, Leahy accepted his appointment to the Naval Academy and graduated with the class of 1897. As an ensign, he fought in the Spanish-American War on the battleship USS Oregon. Later in 1899, Leahy was sent to the Asiatic Station, where he was involved in crushing the Philippine insurrection and the Boxer Rebellion. Afterwards, Leahy served on 2 more cruisers before becoming an instructor at the Naval Academy. In 1912, Leahy was sent to Nicaragua to become Chief of Staff of an expeditionary force where he escorted supplies, equipment, and reinforcements to support the growing American presence in Nicaragua. During this time, Leahy established a close friendship with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was the Assistant Secretary of the Navy at that time. From 1915 to 1927, Leahy commanded numerous gunboats, transport ships, cruisers, and battleships. In 1927, Leahy made flag and was the Chief of the Bureau of Ordnance, the commander of Scouting Forces destroyers, and then the Chief of the Bureau of Navigation. As a Vice Admiral in 1935, Leahy served as the commander of battleships, Battle Force, until receiving a promotion to Full Admiral, where he served as the commander of Battle Force, where he was in charge of all U.S. Navy activity in the Pacific. In 1937, Leahy became the Chief of Naval Operations, during which he oversaw the rapid expansion of the Navy while war brewed in both Europe and the Far East. In 1939, Leahy retired from the Navy, beginning a career as a civilian government official. President Roosevelt rewarded Leahy for his loyal service to the Navy with the Navy Distinguished Service Medal in July 1939, further developing the relationship between the two men. Shortly after retirement from the Navy, Leahy was appointed by Roosevelt to be the governor of Puerto Rico. He had to address the military situation, which included improving U.S. installations. In addition, Leahy had to address economic issues such as the Great Depression and poverty. Following his service as governor, Leahy became the ambassador to France in November 1940, after the fall of France to Germany in June. In this role, Leahy moderated collaboration with the Germans and worked very closely with Pétain, the leader of Vichy France. Leahy worked to provide food to the French, despite British efforts of a blockade. Once Germany declared war on the U.S., and Leahy recognized the strength of Free France under de Gaulle, Leahy requested to be recalled to the U.S., which soon occurred.
Events moved quickly once Leahy was recalled back to Washington. Roosevelt appointed him as Chief of Staff to the Commander-in-Chief, Army and Navy of the United States. This move was done in order to better integrate the various services in the combined war effort. Additionally, Roosevelt needed someone at his right hand who he could trust, and through his prior personal relationship with Leahy, Roosevelt found just that. In addition to his duties as an advisor to the President, Leahy presided over the meetings of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The various service chiefs included General Marshall, Admiral King, and General Arnold. Leahy also chaired meetings over the combined Chiefs of Staff, which included figures such as Field Marshal Sir John Dill and Admiral Sir Andrew Cunningham. One of the first meetings that Leahy presided over was in discussion of Operation Torch, the Allied invasion of French North Africa. Leahy supported Roosevelt's decision in supporting the operation against the wishes of Marshall and King, who were very opposed. In addition to supporting the president, Leahy functioned as an auxiliary in the control of the flow of information in the White House. Quickly establishing himself as the gatekeeper to the president, Leahy began to ruthlessly control access. Industrialists, major political figures, and other Joint Chiefs had to go through him in order to gain access to the president. Leahy was present with Roosevelt for numerous conferences. He was with Roosevelt for the Tehran Conference, where agreements were made with the Soviets on Operation Overlord, the D-Day invasion. He was the only member of the Joint Chiefs to accompany Roosevelt for the Pacific Strategy Conference in Hawaii, where they met with Admiral Nimitz and General MacArthur to decide the course of the war in the Pacific. Leahy was present with Roosevelt for the Second Quebec Conference, where discussions were made over the Allied occupation zones in Germany, the Morgenthau Plan, and the role of the British Navy in the Pacific, while also taking part in the Yalta Conference, where the reorganization of Europe was determined. Leahy was officially raised to the grade of Fleet Admiral on December 15, 1944, the first officer on 5-star rank, officially codifying his stature as the highest-ranking member of the armed forces. After the death of Roosevelt, Leahy continued as the wartime chief of staff to President Truman, accompanying him to the Potsdam Conference and in discussions over the use of the atomic bomb in Japan. At the cessation of hostilities, Leahy continued as a presidential advisor until he would ask to be retired in 1949, finding himself in disaccord with some of Truman's policies. Before his retirement, he was instrumental in crafting 2 speeches which would set the tone for America's future in the world: Truman's Navy Day speech, which addressed the role of the U.S. military in the post-war world, and Churchill's Iron Curtain speech, addressing the need for America and Britain to work together against the Soviet Union. Now officially retired, Leahy spent the rest of his life in relative obscurity, passing away on July 20, 1959, having lived a complete life, just as any old sailor would have wanted.